Right, you're welcome back. The Independent National Electoral Commission is the body saddled with the responsibility of conducting all elections in the country. Now, opinions of INEC's performance under Professor Mahmoud Yaqub differ. While some agree that he has been doing a fine job, others say elections under him have been largely controversial.
Now, since Professor Mahmoud Yaqub took over as the 12th chairman of the country's electoral commission since independence from Professor Tahiru Jega in 2015, this will be the first general election he will be overseeing. Already, there are fears of violence and the fact that many people will be disenfranchised, with reports of fire incidents in 3 states that resulted in the destruction of TVCs and other INEC materials. Because this will be one of the country's most keenly contested presidential election, all eyes are on INEC to see how it handles it. All right.
Yes, indeed.
We have in the studio a journalist and social commentator, Fumi Komolafe. He's one of our regular analysts in the studio. Good morning, Fumi. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Exactly, nice to see you. All right, we were counting down, and here we are, just less than 24 hours to the D-Day where Nigerians will decide who they want from the ground level to the highest level, as the case may be. Now, if we have to, INEC is the focus now. Let us take a look at the Electoral Commission, not necessarily even INEC. If we even look at the days of NECON and all of that, even
FEDECO.
in the FEDECO, in the Second Republic and all of that. How would you say that the Electoral Commission in Nigeria has fared so far? Have they lived up to expectation? Because sometimes they send contingents to monitor elections in South Africa, elections in Kenya, elections in Ghana, and all of that.
Yes, honestly, I think taking a good look at it from FEDECO, NECO, as you said, I think there's been significant improvement, especially since the time of Tahiru Jega, the last INEC chairman. That's when we had the introduction of the card reader. That's when we had corpus brought in. That's when we had academicians brought in as resident electoral commissioners or poll or results announcing officers, by whatever name they are called. You know, some kind of level of academic input was brought into it. You now have a time there was that when we had elections like that, it was all, everything relied on teachers, and some people, you know, had their own way of, you know, mobilizing or demobilizing. But now corpus are involved, and that means that you have people who are better educated, people who should be able to vouch for their own, who should bother about their integrity. Those type of people were brought in by Jega, and I think that is a very commendable step. No one ever knew that, you know, that could happen. And the people in the academia, the professors, are taking up the job, and I think that's a very, very good development.
Okay, you know what? Let's even move away from that, because we're going to explore the issue of INEC's preparedness even more in the course of the show. But let's look at the process of recruiting our leaders. You know, I mean, that's a voting process itself. From point A to point Z, which is, of course, the point where the electorate decide finally on who to vote for or who not to vote for, what to vote for or what not to vote for.
And why? And
why? Do you think we have, you know, evolved to, you know, such a level? Because we're going to be looking at issues like debates, for example. What role, you know, the election debates are playing or have played, if you think there's any value that it's even bringing to the whole electoral process. But let's look at the process in general, that will begin to break it down in bits and pieces.
I think in that area, we're still backward.
Still backward?
Yes. Why do I say we're backward? My reading is that we have a country, but we don't have a nation. Where you don't have a nation, you now begin to have sentiments come into play. Religious, ethnic sentiments, all those kind of things that do not have any direct bearing on the improvement of life for the people. Those are the things that even now in this election of tomorrow, those are the factors that stop discussions. People are looking more at religious sentiments, where this person comes from, rather than taking a holistic look at the future. And then people tend to look at what will I benefit, where will I benefit, which is very unfortunate.
Well,
take Ghana, for instance.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ngozi.
Go ahead, yeah.
Ghana has a nation. We don't have a nation. When you see a Ghanaian, and we missed it at some point.
Where did we miss it?
Well,
or how?
We must have missed it. We missed it, of course, through our politicians, to be honest. Since from the beginning, even from independence, we missed it. After independence, let me say after independence, the moment we started conducting our own elections, we missed it. Now in Ghana, a Ghanaian is first a Ghanaian before you begin to know which ethnic group or which region. But in Nigeria, I'm first, of this particular ethnic group before I'm a Nigerian, as if I decided to be in that ethnic group. You and I didn't decide where we met ourselves.
Exactly.
It is the decision of God. And there's a reason why you were put there. So I think that is a major problem. And I think that this generation of politicians, I will not write them off completely. Because to write them off completely, it will not be a good assessment.
But what is the reason for this, sentiments that are brought to bear in our electoral process? What do you think is foundational to this?
Selfish reasons. Selfish reasons. I told you people are looking at issues from what do I benefit? Who is my kinsman? Is he from my ethnic group?
My point is it a result of ignorance? Is this where it lies?
Well, partly...
A largely uneducated population?
That's it. That's part of it. Don't forget that if you compare the level of literacy in Nigeria with that of Ghana, Ghana is higher.
Or even Zimbabwe?
It's higher. So that is a factor, whether we like it or not. And maybe I lead you to the issue of presidential debates. It's for the middle class. The people that is for the middle class. The noisy and selfish middle class. They are the people who understand and watch those things. Probably provided that you have a public power supply or you have a gen. But the person, the market woman on the street, my brother who is struggling, running in the traffic to say, please, buy my phone, buy my this. He doesn't have time for presidential debate.
He doesn't even know what application
or any debate
what role he plays.
Or any debate for that matter. And again, when I say the politicians and indeed the middle class are the problems of this country. Now, I put it this way. Assuming, I don't want to mention any particular ethnic group. Assuming I'm from ethnic group X, and the president is from that ethnic group X, where do I stand to benefit?
Exactly.
People have been deceived by the vocal middle class. Now, the fact that I'm from ethnic X and the president is from ethnic X, does it mean that everybody in that ethnic group will have jobs? Does it mean they will all have houses? Does it mean they will all earn living wages? It's not true.
Exactly.
And it will never be true.
It's just a sentiment of the fact that sentiment of the fact that he comes from where I come from, and that's all.
Some of them,
or like the Yorubas would say, Omowani Ejoshe.
But there are some places where the Omowa has even failed to construct road to his own town.
All right. One of our founding fathers once was quoted as saying that Nigeria is just a geographical expression. It's not a nation. Taking us back to the issue of the nation, because a lot of analysts have actually made this statement you've made, that Nigeria is not a nation in that regard. Nigeria is just a country with many nations and all of that. But if we have to talk about a country being a nation, what really is a nation? What really makes that nation that Nigeria should be?
First of all, it's your sense of patriotism and commitment. You see yourself stand as a Nigerian. You see, these things play up at home. When you meet Nigerians in diaspora, it's not like that.
Oh, yes. Oh,
It's not like that.
yes.
Very true.
Exactly.
When Nigerians meet outside Nigeria, oh, they are
They are
first
one.
of all Nigerians.
Exactly.
The spirit of Niger.
Exactly.
So, and that is
It kicks
because,
in.
one, because they are outside this environment. Two, because the countries where they reside don't play up ethnic sentiments. You understand? At least to the level that we antagonize one another. I mean, how do you find in the states, you know, communities in the same state, people killing one another because of land?
Yeah.
What sense does that make?
That land was there before all of you were born.
Exactly.
It will
It
be
was
here
there
after all of you were
gone.
gone.
So what's the killing meant for?
Isn't that where voter education, or education generally, I heard an analyst talking the other day, he said, look, we've not even fixed the problem of education. How much more voter education? Now, voter education will emanate from a general, you know,
Education and enlightenment.
education and enlightenment of generality of the population. Is that where we're getting it wrong?
No, one is not, one cannot be totally separated from the other. Education, of course, has different levels. And let's not forget that literacy is not education.
Yes.
No, it's not.
So people may not be literate, but they can be educated. Both, I think, go together. Yes, it is right. We need to work on our educational system. We need to put in place a system that gives every Nigerian the right to be in school. That's what Ghana has. We don't have. The right to be in school at to some point at the level, at the expense of government. I think we tried it sometime. I don't know whether it is still working. It should be an offense for you not to put your child in school. Here, maybe it's an offense on paper, but who is implementing
It's actually an offense
But
on
then
paper.
again,
We've
when
not
you
really
when you
seen it.
legislate the issue of education, it's one thing to say it's compulsory to go to school. It's another thing to look at the content of that schooling. What kind of education are you getting? There was a time when you would get civics, you know, and civil education, where you were taught these are your rights, where your rights end, that is where that of the other person begins, and how we have used this statement over and over again, credited to US President, former US President John Kennedy, who said, do not think what your country will, can give to you, but think about what you can give
do for your country.
To your country. We're not hearing such statements that you could say are written in gold from our leaders. And so for the young Nigerian, or any Nigerian that is born today, his mind is not necessarily, oh, I want to work hard so that I can help my family, so that my community can benefit from the education that I get, and all of those things. How can we begin to fix it at that level?
I think, first of all, for us to make real progress in this country, I hope that this election will be the last time that we're going to have anybody who is over 70 contesting election.
How do we achieve that? How do we?
No, it's possible, it's possible. Now,
that is a very strong
yes,
projection.
Because that generation, they have given us their best. And their best has not really moved us up.
Or was good enough for their time?
Well, I'm not even sure it was good enough for their time. Because some of us met them in their time. And I'm not sure it's perfect. I think we have to move and get new ideas, fresh ideas. This election, everybody is looking at only 2 parties, whereas there are more than 30 parties in this. Some of these people are young people with fresh ideas. But in Nigeria, you have this, oh, it's not been tested. Hey, is this
He doesn't have experience.
He doesn't have experience. He doesn't, but what of ideas?
But
No president runs a country alone. No president runs the country alone. So you need to get men of ideas around you.
So, but do you think that has started now? Because this is the first time we're having about 70 or so presidential candidates.
72.
But you and I know now that the whole noise revolves around two parties, as if there are only two parties.
But they have to start from somewhere, actually.
Yes, they have to
because
start
for
from
anyone
somewhere.
who contests a presidential election, he has gathered one experience or the other.
Yes.
Have a way.
I hope you also know that some of these people who call themselves presidential aspirants have not even gone to local governments to campaign. A particular one is always in his church, and that's where Nigeria begins and ends. And that's where he campaigns. So we are talking about serious people now.
Yeah.
We're talking about serious people. I think we need to make a conscious effort to say enough is enough. Anybody, any party that presents anybody that is 70 up, you are done for. That's the end. You will not make it. So there has to be.
What do you think
see,
would
we don't
be
have
the
a
ideal?
movement.
The ideal.
You see, the problem is that we
age.
don't have a conscious political movement. Nobody is driving any movement, and there's the need to drive a conscious political movement.
Yeah, but is it not
Without
because
that,
people haven't come to a point where they actually can say, this is what I stand for? And when you see a person, you know, putting themselves forward, whether a man or a woman, saying, in terms of ideology, you know, we're looking at welfare system as against capitalist, you know, and things like that. And for the average Nigerian to be able to say to himself, oh, actually, this person identifies with what I believe in, basically. And so I will stand behind this person, whether they will win the election or not. Because what you hear from most people is, oh, look, I actually like this person. I think I believe in what he or she stands for. But the problem is, he doesn't stand any chance of winning this election. So I don't want to waste my vote. Now, that factor is a major concern. How do you begin to educate Nigerians that, look, it doesn't matter whether this person wins the election or not. If you believe enough in what they stand for, then go ahead and line up behind them.
Yes, I'm still back to my point. And I think this is where the student movement would have come in. It's always the beginning of the bedrock of producing very serious and credible politicians. Check them out. Check Azikwe, check Awolowo.
Yes.
All were in...
Ziku started the Nigerian youth movement,
exactly.
the NYM.
Exactly.
So the youth, the student movement failed completely. So we cannot continue to blame the 70 and above generation only. So we just have to have a conscious political movement. And it could be to the left, it could be the right, it could be the center, whatever you believe in.
But at least there has to be something.
Begin to gather people. There are groups that can be mobilized. That there are groups that you can sell your ideas to. And by the time you are selling it, these things have to start before election. It's not now. It's not now, 24 hours to the election. You now begin to expect magic or it won't happen. You know, so someone or some people need to come together and start a very serious, conscious political movement.
But isn't there something fundamentally wrong with that in itself when we say somebody has to? You know, like Michael Jackson said, it's the man in the mirror. Maybe you actually are the solution, you know, to the problem that you actually identify.
Yes, you work with other people.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
You work with other like minds.
You have to work
and
together.
move on.
Yeah.
You have to work with other like minds and move on.
All right, let's come back to the issue of INEC now. So much focus on INEC when it comes to, is there going to be a free and fair election? Everyone points to INEC somehow and all of that. What really makes a good election umpire? Let's take a look at the crux of INEC and electoral...
Unbiased umpire. That is determined to conduct a free and fair election. That is prepared, putting everything in place. But don't forget also that there is no perfect system. Someone once said in this country that even if angels come to conduct an election in Nigeria, it will not be perfect. I don't know about that.
Yeah, no perfect system. But can there be an excellent system?
Yes, near excellent system. Yes, we can have it. But again, don't forget that the people who work with or work for INEC are also human beings. And therefore, many of them can be influenced by people, those who don't bother about their reputation, you know. But what is going on now, like some of them being sent to jail now, maybe that will instill some fear into those who are going to conduct this election. But it's not just about INEC alone, even the electorate. We have our own responsibility as well. In some cases, INEC is ready, people don't come out to vote, and they're not going to bring you from your bedroom. You just have to go there and perform your civic duty.
And speaking of which, I mean, the issue of PVCs, INEC and everybody who cares enough to, you know, enlighten people on how important it is to actually pick up their PVCs. A lot of people left it to the very last minute. Fire brigade approach as usual, where all of a sudden, 24, 48 hours to the end of the PVC collection.
Exactly. And then there was
Nigerians pouring out from everywhere. Yeah, saying, I need my PVC now. I actually need. How do you get to a point where you don't need to wait until it's almost too late?
Well, that's your personal decision. If you decide to wait till the last minute and you don't get it, then that's your I mean, it's the price you have to pay for not acting. Remember the BVN thing too.
Exactly.
That's our last attitude. That's our attitude. Except when people know that, look, if I don't have PVC and I work else, you know, in government or something, I may not be paid. Although that's not right. That's not right. But if they know that they're going to lose something,
or there's going to be a consequence.
Oh, then that's when they wake up. So,
or maybe even looking at the bigger picture, that if I don't pick up my PVC and I don't go out to vote, it means I will not get that kind of health care that I need. I will not get the
That's the consequence.
The education that I want for my kids. I will not get the kind of roads that I want, you know, or the kind of housing. There's a 17 million housing gap right now, deficit right now. How do we, you know, my picking up my PVC and going out to vote means there's a possibility that I can actually close that gap. But a lot of people don't seem to understand that. So it still goes back to the issue of, is it ignorance or what's playing out?
A combination of factors. A combination of factors. Ignorance. For some people, is disappointment. All the years I've been voting, what have I gotten from it?
Voter apathy.
Voter apathy. You know, a combination of factors could be responsible for that. But where you have a conscious, I still insist on a conscious political movement. Where you have a conscious political movement, you won't put up that type of attitude. Even if you have relations, you know, that don't care, you then can begin to tell them, no, don't do that. Grandma, let's go. We have to go because when we do this could be the consequence.
So you can be the mobilizer within your family, within your community.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think something really has to be done from the leadership itself, orienting the people, not even just before elections, a continuous reorientation. And I believe that's why we have the National Orientation Agency and agencies like that. All right, Fumiko Molafe, thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure being with you.
Okay.